Hey there, and welcome back to Swept Media here at the convergence of AI and Web3. Today we're going to be talking about AI agent verification, which is a topic that should be familiar to those of you who saw the last podcast. That was podcast number 9 with Michael Senna from Recall Network. That is the issue that Recall Network is trying to tackle. And it sparked an idea in my head about, this is actually something that should become a reality, a market for AI agent verification, because we have smart contract auditors like Certic going around providing auditing services and ensuring that people's code is up to snuff, that it's secure enough, that it does the thing that the company claims that it's going to do. And they have the option to make those audits public or not. They definitely almost always will say that they got audited, but the details of that audit are not always put public. That is the kind of thing that we need for AI agents, especially in the Web3 space. Now, this is a topic that actually Recall Network does not want me to be talking about. This is something that they got pretty upset about. This article here that we're going to be going over, which I published late last week, they got pretty upset about it. Why? I'm not entirely sure why. I have a few guesses, but they do not want you to hear what I'm going to tell you about AI agent verifications, at least from my perspective. So what we'll do is we'll go through this article, and then we will pinpoint these issues with Recall and what they're doing, the pros and the cons essentially, and then an alternative idea that I have or which could potentially take place, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, they were not happy with this article, even though the podcast went really well. Michael Senna and I talked for about an hour about what Recall's up to and the general agentic AI space in the Web3 context, and seemed the conversation went really well. He gave a lot of great feedback about it, but then when I did this article, they were not happy. So let's dive into it. I start by asking it's a rhetorical question, which is meant to get the conversation of the article started. What happens when deploying an AI agent in the Web3 space and beyond is as easy as copying your neighbor's homework, and you only have to change the name and the opening line of the essay? And that is an idea of forking a GitHub, essentially. So you have an AI agentic framework like Eliza. You basically just need to fork the GitHub, and then you can get started with your own agent. You provide a few extra scripts, and then you can go. That's it. That's all you have to do to make your agent unique to what you want. And it's not that hard to do. Of course, I don't know how to do it myself, but I'm sure that if I just spent a week learning how to do a little bit of coding, that I could probably figure it out. So I point out that, it seems like we're just beginning to uncover the real lengths of that scenario now in real time, talking about things like Eliza and virtuals, how easy it is to launch an agent, and of course with a coin that goes along with it. There are a lot of agents now. Now, if you look at CoinGecko, it's probably closer to 450 AI agents that have tokens now that are being shown by CoinGecko, although I'm sure there are many more that aren't on Gecko yet. Virtuals has 741. That's a lot. Eliza has 3.2 thousand forks of their GitHub. So we're talking about literally thousands and thousands of AI agents just in the Web3 space being launched in only the past year and a half. I mean, Eliza and virtuals have not been around a long time. And that's the that's the field that we're in now. That's the scenario that has been laid out for us in this agentic AI space in Web3. Now, the side effect of this has been and always has been and will continue to be inevitable. It's mirroring the side effect of the meme coin proliferation across chains like Solana and Base. Saturation of copycat agents with copycat tokens that do nothing of substance and enrich very few lives despite their obtuse promises to the contrary. You could chalk it up to just another crypto problem, and I'm sure many normies do. They wouldn't be far enough off the mark to have to correct them, but they also have no sense of humor about these things. You can't sit there and tell me that the vast majority of meme coins are not generally just a waste of time. Sure, they might be fun to trade and speculators will speculate. I have no problem with people trading meme coins at all. I think many of them are funny, but when you get down to it, they're only meant to be flash in the pan, maybe a couple hours before they just completely die off and liquidity is sucked away via rug pull, or people just entirely lose interest in it. The same thing is going on with these AI agent tokens on the token side of things. 741 AI agents on virtuals. Can you name five? Can you name five of them? I can't. I can name like four, honestly. No, that's true. I know more than that. But the point is, you can't. Most of these things people don't know. The vast majority of them people do not know because it's so difficult to develop a cult of personality around an agent when so many are coming out so quickly and then they disappear. So now moving into the AI agent side of things, that was the kind of crypto side, but there is a real utility to them. And regardless of what their token may do, the AI agents behind them have utility for at least an individual who has launched it. Imagine running a small enterprise. Your business, you're busy and you don't have the time to learn to train an agent. You don't have monetary resources to hire someone to do it, and your staff are hardly equipped to self-educate in a timely fashion that will put you on a trajectory to propel past your competition with AI automation. You may resort to the minimum due diligence and try deploying a prepackaged agent, but then you find out that it does nothing but mine Monero and book calendar entries in the wrong time zone. So essentially, you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to waste a lot of resources trying to find a good agent if you're going through these paths that we have now in the Web3 space. This is a problem. There is not enough verification of the quality or the utility of the AI agents that exist now. You can put you can write whatever profile you want about what your AI agent does. That doesn't necessarily mean it does that thing. And for people like me who cannot code, we may not be able to tell how the ulterior motives of the builders who have made the AI agent, that there might be something malicious inside of that AI agent running in the background on your computer. We don't know. This is one of the things that I talked about with Michael Senna, that scenario of the unknown of what an AI agent does is unacceptable now. And what Recall is trying to do is add legitimacy, kind of weed out the bad actors, weed out the underperformers in the agentic space, in order to let the good performers and the good builders shine. And good for them. They should be doing this. This is a noble effort. And then another thing is about these competitions, you get paid real money. It's not like you just go and you get clout. You get actual money, and you also get to ride the top of the leaderboard with the more competitions that you win. AI agent quality verification is what I talked about with Michael Senna, a former consensus guy. Recall aims to offer an arena for AI agents and their developers to drop the claims and simply prove their capabilities in competition. Under this model that I just described for Recall Network, Senna expects that end users of AI agents will be able to set realistic benchmarks about what agents can reliably do for them. He told me, and this is a quote from the podcast, not only will we see agents excel at skills that people actually need, we'll see expectations of performance and verifiability. Now, large LLM creators are trying to optimize for foundational model benchmarks, but there's really no equivalent benchmarks for AI agents. So when we create these protocols for evaluation and benchmarking, it creates a feedback loop of ensuring that an agent does what its developers say it can do. Great quote. I think that really well encapsulates the mission of Recall. And it made me think, like, there's quite a lot that Recall is trying to do it, or at least it's a big task to take on. So I asked him, do you see Recall like just being the only ones doing this thing, or is it going to turn into a market where there will be other types of Recall networks that spring up that try to legitimize AI agents, give them more verifiability of their utility and quality, while also enriching their followers, their own project's followers, and themselves in the process, which if you do a good job at something, you should be paid to do it. No problem with that. He says, yeah, there's probably going to be a market that grows out of this, which sparked an idea in me about how that would work. Now, this is probably one of the things that Recall didn't like, but my feeling is that especially for young companies like Recall, not to say that Senna is like new in this, he's been around a very long time, was that he claimed that, and it says on his website, he also said in the podcast that the agent economy is the fastest growing market in the world, with 50 billion agents expected online by 2030.
In a world we're quickly approaching, not only in crypto, but even beyond, of 50 billion AI agents online by 2030.
I looked in a lot of on a lot of research about where this number could have come from, where these estimates. I mean, this is essentially an estimate. So I searched around for estimated number of agents that would be in use by 2030 or any time in the future. I found nothing. I found market size by market cap, dollar value, but there was no estimated number of agents. Not to say that the 50 billion is wrong, but where are they getting this number from? I have no idea. The point is that there's a lot of agents being launched every day, and that number is just going to increase. 50 billion, I don't know. Maybe it's a lofty claim. But the point is that, yeah, there's going to be a lot more agents. So now this AI agent market. In light of the adoption trend line and the total takeover of open market effects on the development of AI agents, at least within the Web3 space, it's clear that some form of verification is needed beyond a centralized source of truth. This is why I believe a new AI agent verification market is primed for launch. The AI agent verification market is something Senna also said would be something that Recall merely fits into in the long term, rather than corners entirely, because it would be one of maybe 3 monoliths in the mainstream that have emerged from Web3, with the first being Bitcoin and the second being NFTs. So basically what I'm saying here is to expect Recall to be a monolith that extends beyond Web3 and into the mainstream Web2 space or anywhere else for that matter. I mean, that's a lofty goal, and we didn't discuss that at all. It's a ridiculous thing to expect of a company. You can have that vision, but to expect it is not realistic in any sense. To think that your project will be as big as Bitcoin or as ubiquitous as NFTs, it's just not a realistic thing to ask, especially this early on. Not to say that he did say that, but I'm just trying to add some context here. So then, this is another thing that Recall probably didn't like. This is what we call poking holes in someone's shit. Now, I should also note that everything I say here, I mentioned to Senna in the podcast. I expound upon it, though, in this article. And it's worth being expounded upon. Okay, so I'll just read what I wrote here to give you the full idea of what it was about. The Recall model. And this is the Recall model of AI agentic verification. Recall's model of pitting agents against each other in open competition is intriguing. I could see several more of these pop up over the next 2 years, depending on the success of Recall. The problem with Recall's model is that developers will likely build agents specifically to win the cash prize of each competition, which can become a perverse incentive to build to the test rather than to the user. And this is something I asked him about, like as far as specialization of skills. Are you worried about builders becoming specialized in skills in building agents that do things that are not necessarily transferable to the real world? Is the gamification of AI agent building a potential problem? Could you just be testing something that is not necessarily relevant to the real world by having this sort of competition?
Yeah, there's a few interesting ways I can take that. And in my mind, if what the platform is testing is invaluable in the real world, it's not a translatable skill, it won't get funding because it won't be demanded by the market.
And yeah, it's an issue, but the more competitions you have with varying sets of benchmarks and objective level measures of success, the lower chance you have of that happening. But it is still, it's a threat. Another problem with Recall's model is that it isn't scalable and will not attract well-funded teams. There is no plan to attract the attention of enterprises. Recall can help the market set a benchmark for particular niches that AI agents might be used for, because I can't imagine that there will be many like ChatGPTs or Claudes that are going to be going of that size. You're not going to have an enterprise going on to recall to set the benchmark. The enterprise will set the benchmark on their own independently.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someday, but a lot of these enterprises and at least closed source AI labs aren't really incentivized to participate in some of these open benchmarks, right? Like they have very tight relationships with the auditors and those setting the benchmarks, right? Like that's sort of what they've built their business around. Um,
I specifically asked him if he had a plan to attract enterprises. He said no, flat out no, which means there's no way to get the attention of the enterprise partners either, which would presumably bring a massive amount of legitimacy to the recall model if they were to partner up. Sen insinuated that these competitions would primarily appeal to degens who presumably can code and deploy agents on their own. I don't need to dig into statistics to know that there is a very small cohort of the population.
can we make agent competitions like fantasy sports for like degen quants? Like maybe. We're running a bunch of experiments to see how non-builders can participate in this ecosystem when competitions are objective, like trading. Obviously, the whole point of the platform is verifiable results and like
If this is Recall's target in its search for product market fit, it's a favorably small target, meaning that target will really love Recall, but it's too small to let Recall scale up in a meaningful way and become a monolith, but is minute. The floor may be far too close to the ceiling for any sort of comfort. And he did say, and this is a great quote. I mean, I really like this that he said that. Can we make AI agent competitions like fantasy sports for degen quants? That's a great quote. It's a great idea, you know. But as far as growing a business, you know, you're targeting such a small group of people. The likelihood that a tech lab with $100 million in investments will seek out a 50K prize in a competition that demands the source code be stored and shared publicly is unlikely, but stranger things have happened. So basically, what I'm saying is, yeah, if you're an AI lab and you built an agent, if your lab has $100 million in investments, what is the ROI in participating in a competition like on Recall, where you earn a $50,000 cash prize and you have to share the source code of your agent? Like what would be the reason for doing something like that? If I was an investor like that, you gave away the secret sauce. That's not going to appeal to too many builders at a larger scale. This is a model that appeals to the individual cracked devs and the bootstrappers out there who are trying to make a splash. They must be served in this way. So it's really important that this exists for them to legitimize their work. They must be served in this way to give them the clout they deserve. But the ROI on this model isn't great for funded firms yet. That yet is an important word in the sentence. Next, I talk about how a ZK model could work. So ZK meaning zero knowledge. Rather than open sourcing the source code for an agent that a funded firm has built, you could pass that code through a ZK model. And recently I read about this project, this blockchain that just launched. You know what? They're doing all right. Space and Time, that's SXT chain, where basically you can input some data through a validator, and the validator can't see the data that's going through. They can only basically use a ZK prover. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what a ZK prover does, but essentially they can only prove that something was real, that data is accurate, based on checks that it does. So it says, are you sure that this is real? And basically one side gives them half a key. They have the other side of the key that proves that the data that's been input is accurate. Then on the other side, it hands off that proof that this data is accurate to someone who wants an output, someone who queries that data. That could work if you want to have, big scale companies do this, because they're not going to share their source code. They're not necessarily going to care about the cash prize either, but they may really want to have that verification. The beauty of this model is that it may be offered in packages at varying price tiers that appeal to low-end and high-end businesses. SMEs may only need to use the swarm. I talk about a swarm, an agentic swarm, basically doing all those checks, running a competition, and finding the objective measures of success that would verify that an agent is good. SMEs may only need to use the swarm once or twice as a final way to DD their choice, which would be cheaper. Whereas big retailers and shipping conglomerates, as a simple example, I just use them as an example, it could be anyone, may need to run scans on various externally built and internally built agents that would be applied across various divisions of the company. So that's just something I suggest. I think that that's one way that it could happen. I don't know for sure. It's just based on some thoughts that I had after our conversation. So the firms that turn agent verification as a service into a thing will thrive. So Recall has an opportunity to thrive here because it's an early mover. As small-scale users fork existing models and enterprises require extensive DD before deploying their homegrown agents. Think of the possibilities if you use ZK technology. People have been trying to get ZK technology into the mainstream for a long time. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but this is one possible way for it to make that splash into the mainstream. So that is my refrAIn on Sweat Podcast number 9. I hope you watch it. Hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and of course follow me on Get Swept Up. That's at Get Swept Up, or find me at sweatpod.com. That's where you will find all of the content for this media outlet, Sweat Media. And hopefully, Recall Network, Michael Senna, can have another conversation and hash out some of these issues that I have.